Dinner was already off. Too quiet, too polished. Amanda's parents were hosting. Her father freshly retired. Her mother 3 martinis in, all smiles and subtle jabs. The long table was cluttered with bone china, overcooked lamb, and fake laughter. I hadn't even finished my second bite when it happened. Honestly, her brother Darren said, swirling his wine. How does it feel being a pathetic man in a room like this? Silence didn't follow. Laughter did. Loud. Unapologetic. Her sister laughed first, sharp and nasal. Then her father snorted into his napkin. Even Amanda's little nephew cracked a smile, like he knew this was some inside family joke I wasn't part of. I looked at Amanda. She didn't laugh. She didn't speak either. Just stared at her plate like the food might save her from having to choose a side. I stood up. Not abrupt. Not angry. I reached into my jacket, pulled out my wallet, and placed it on the center of the table, next to the gravy boat. Keep it, I said. That's the last thing you'll get from me. 6 words. The room froze. Her mother's smile cracked. Her father blinked. Darren opened his mouth, probably to launch another jab, but I was already walking. I left the dining room behind like I'd leave everything else. Clean, final, without raising my voice. I didn't go home. I drove straight to the office, used my private elevator, and entered the one place they'd never touched, the server room. Behind a locked cabinet sat the real version of me, the one none of them knew existed. Backup drives, asset lists, legal contracts, digital keys. Months of planning, all logged, all time-stamped. That dinner was the trigger, but the bullet was already in the chamber. I didn't always live this double life. A year ago, I was just a husband. A dependable, accommodating man who funded Amanda's lifestyle, her yoga retreats, her boutique that bled money every month, and her family's endless emergencies. She called me her safe harbor. What she meant was easy to manipulate. Things shifted last Thanksgiving. Darren pulled me aside while Amanda was getting dessert. You know, he said, she told us she married down. Said you were her stepping stone. Nothing personal. I smiled then, like an idiot. Laughed it off. But something locked up inside me. That night, I stayed up reading corporate structuring manuals while Amanda slept beside me. The next morning, I opened 3 new accounts under a shell corporation registered in the British Virgin Islands. Used one to slowly drain our joint account, $3,000 at a time. Another to acquire ownership of Amanda's boutique through debt consolidation. By the time she signed the restructured loan agreement, I owned 82% of it. She never read the fine print. I hired a forensic accountant 2 weeks later. Paid in cash. Quiet. Efficient. He found everything. Darren's gambling debts, her sister's fraudulent grant applications, even Amanda's boutique siphoning money into a personal slush fund she told the IRS didn't exist. I didn't confront anyone. Not yet. I documented it. Every wire. Every message. Every late-night transaction. They thought I was blind. What I was patient. Back in the server room, I duplicated the final set of files, encrypted them, then walked into my private office and opened a drawer I hadn't touched in months. Inside, a manila folder, thick, marked with 3 words I'd written the night Amanda said I was lucky she said yes. Exit strategy, initiate. Step 1 was done. The public humiliation. The clean break. The moment that made them underestimate me one last time. Step 2 was set for 9 a.m. tomorrow. The boutique's lease termination notice would hit her inbox, along with a flagged audit from the IRS. The landlord had been waiting for a green light. I gave it from my phone. Just a single word, execute. The store was already sold, silently, legally, 2 weeks ago to a property development firm I partially owned. She'd walk in Monday morning and find a construction crew measuring the walls. Her employees wouldn't bother calling her. They'd be looking for new jobs by then. Step 3 was Darren. I had a draft of the anonymous tip I'd send to the state licensing board about his misuse of client funds. Screenshots attached. If they moved slow, the bank's compliance division wouldn't. Either way, he'd be out before Christmas. Step 4? Well, that was personal. At 1:37 a.m., I got a text from Amanda. Can we talk? I didn't respond. At 1:42, another one. I didn't laugh. I swear. Still nothing from me. She had her silence. She'd learned to live in it. At 2:05 a.m., she called. I let it ring. By 2:15, I was already in the air, flying west, private charter. My real condo was in Seattle. My real accounts, my real name, all waiting. I built a clean version of myself while she mocked the decoy. I left the puppet behind and took the man she never bothered to see with me. Amanda thought she could embarrass me into submission. What she didn't realize was, I was already gone long before that dinner. That wallet I left on the table, it was empty. Just like the marriage. Just like the loyalty I once had for her family. I gave them exactly what they asked for, a silent man with nothing to say. Now it was my turn to speak. Quietly, legally, irreversibly. By the time Amanda woke up, the first domino had already fallen. She called me at 7:02 a.m. Sharp, urgent. The boutique's alarm code wasn't working. The manager couldn't get in. Locks changed. Doors padlocked. She texted me a photo of the notice to vacate, taped to the glass. I didn't reply. At 7:31, her father called. Straight to voicemail. He tried again. And again. At 8:06, Amanda sent another message. I know you're upset. Let's talk. Please. But she wasn't upset because of what she'd done. She was upset because the mask she wore for years had finally started to crack, and it wasn't on her terms. At 9 a.m. Sharp, the boutique's business account was frozen. The IRS audit notice hit her inbox. I watched the alert ping on my phone, sipping coffee 500 miles away. She wouldn't be able to move a cent without triggering a fraud flag. I'd worked with a retired auditor for weeks to make sure every discrepancy was highlighted in red. At 10:15, Darren called. I knew he would. The licensing board email landed 30 minutes earlier. The evidence was irrefutable. He was being investigated for misappropriating client trust funds. He'd lose his license, maybe even face charges. I answered that call. Darren, I said calmly. You son of a bitch, he snapped. What did you do? You opened the door, I replied. I just let the consequences walk in. He cursed, threatened. I hung up. 1 hour later, Amanda showed up at my old office. I saw her through the security feed, banging on the glass, demanding to speak to me. She looked smaller than I remembered. Makeup rushed, hair half-tied, phone clenched in her hand like a lifeline that kept disconnecting. She didn't know I'd sold that company 3 months ago. Didn't know the security guard didn't recognize her name. Didn't know the desk she once sat on, smiling at clients she never respected, now belonged to someone who worked for me under a name she never learned. At noon, she sent me a voicemail. Her voice was trembling, but rehearsed. I didn't know you felt this way. I never meant to hurt you. Let's fix this before it's too late. Too late. It had been too late the moment she let her brother humiliate me and said nothing. Not once. Not even a glance in my direction. At 1:30 p.m., the developers who bought the boutique building officially announced its conversion into luxury condos. Local news picked it up. Amanda wasn't mentioned. She didn't own it anymore. She never had, not after she signed the debt refinance agreement 6 months ago. She thought she was buying time. What she sold was control. Her mother called next. We need to talk, she said. I told her she had 3 minutes. She tried diplomacy, family, respect, tried to sound like a matriarch holding it all together. Then came the kicker. You're overreacting. That word, overreacting. I didn't yell. I didn't explain. I just said, you'll be receiving a subpoena next week. Check with your accountant. And I hung up. Because she'd co-signed one of Amanda's loans. One of the fraudulent ones. No one at that table was innocent. They were part of the performance. They encouraged it, enabled it, laughed at it. Now they could all share the stage for the finale. By 3 p.m., Amanda was back at the boutique, pleading with contractors to let her in. One of the workers, who now technically worked for me, handed her a sealed envelope instead. Inside were termination papers, debt notices, and a letter informing her that any further trespass would be considered criminal. I watched the footage later. She didn't cry. She looked like someone drowning with no one left to blame. That night, I checked into a penthouse suite overlooking the Sound. Quiet, clean, isolated. I ordered dinner for one. Medium rare steak. Bourbon. No phone. No distractions. When the server left, I thought about the last thing Amanda said to me before that dinner. You're too passive. That's why no one takes you seriously. She was half right. I was passive once. The man she knew would have gone home, sulked, begged, maybe tried to fix things. But that version of me disappeared the day I realized I was financing my own humiliation. I wasn't just out for payback. That's too emotional. Too temporary. This was about balance. Power returned to where it was earned. Respect withdrawn from where it was wasted. They thought silence meant weakness. But silence is what happens right before the collapse. The next morning, I got an alert. Darren's firm had placed him on indefinite leave pending review. Amanda's boutique accounts hit zero, and her personal Instagram, a shrine to her curated lifestyle, went dark. No apology, no statement, just vanished. One by one, their facades unraveled. And I didn't have to lift a single finger. Everything was already in motion. Amanda showed up at my door 3 days later. Not my old apartment, not the condo we shared during better days. This door belonged to the place no one knew about. My real home, the one registered under a trust, the one her name never touched. I saw her through the camera. No makeup, hoodie, hair tied back. A woman stripped of everything performative. She stood there for a full minute before ringing the bell. I opened the door, but didn't step aside. Please, she said. Just let me explain. I let her talk. Not out of mercy, but out of precision. Every word she said now was useful. She claimed she never meant for things to go that far. She said she never laughed because she agreed with Darren. Said she stayed silent to keep the peace. That she still loved me. That last part, delivered with watery eyes and a trembling voice, almost sounded real. But love doesn't stay quiet when you're being butchered in front of a crowd. I don't need an apology, I said. I need you to read something. I handed her an envelope. Inside, a copy of the legal claim against her for misrepresentation, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty in the handling of her boutique's finances. A claim she'd have to answer in court. You're suing me? She whispered. No, I said. The trust is. She didn't understand. She didn't want to understand. She wasn't used to being held accountable. Amanda always thought charm outranked consequence. What do you want? She asked. I pointed at the document. That. An acknowledgement. In writing. Under oath. And when it's over, you walk away clean. No more claims. No more contact. Just the truth on record. She looked at me like I'd become someone else. The truth was, I had. The man who used to believe in shared dreams? Gone. The man who thought love meant absorbing betrayal and silence? Buried. All that was left was a man who'd finally taken inventory of the damage and found a way to rebuild without any of them in it. Amanda didn't sign that day. She left with the envelope, shaking, quiet. The silence I'd once begged for had become her only answer. Within a week, her lawyer called. They were ready to settle. No contest. Full cooperation. She'd seen the documents, the paper trail, the signatures. Everything was tight. She had no moves left. Darren tried to reach me too. A half-hearted voicemail about making things right. I forwarded it to the licensing board. Let them hear how sorry he was once his empire started cracking. Her mother went quiet after a second notice from the IRS. No more martinis. No more backhanded compliments. Just radio silence. The final nail came on a Thursday. Amanda's name appeared in a regional paper. Just a sidebar, under the business section. Local boutique owner reaches settlement in fraud case. No photos. No comments. But the community read it. Her old clients. Her suppliers. Her Instagram followers. The comments under her last post turned brutal. Fake. Liar. Grifter. She deleted the account 2 hours later. I watched it unfold from my desk, sipping black coffee, eyes steady. I didn't celebrate. There was nothing left to toast. Revenge, real revenge, doesn't end in applause. It ends in the quiet resignation of people who finally realize you were never the fool. A month passed. The settlement was finalized. Her assets liquidated. She moved in with a friend across town. Started waitressing again. At a cafe near the boutique she used to own. I walked past it once. Didn't go in. Didn't need to. The space was under renovation. New owner. New name coming soon. I already knew what it was. No returns. Fitting. They'd turned me into a punchline once. The passive one. The wallet. The background character in their show. But they forgot something fundamental. The man who funds the party usually owns the building. And when he walks out, the lights go off. The music stops. And everyone's left staring at the bill. I never raised my voice. Never threw a punch. Never broke a law. But I took everything they counted on, quietly, legally, completely. So now, when people ask what happened to Amanda and her family, I tell them the truth. They laughed. And then I walked out, put my wallet on the table, and ended the joke.